homeschool, parental rights, and morality. These are the topics that are on everybody's mind right now. And I have a perfect guest to discuss these important topics today. I have Tiffany Boyd from Free Your Children today. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with you tonight.
We had you on, or I was on your show with
Yeah,
Van Houston, my son
yes.
who graduated at 12 just a couple months ago. And so that's where I met her online. I think she saw me on a news article for
That's
Van
correct.
Houston. I was kind of going back like, okay, how did we meet?
Uh-huh.
I meet so many people around the nation, but you actually saw one of my news articles. I was
Uh-huh.
on your show. And after I got through talking to you, I was like, okay, so now, Tiffany, we have to have you on my show because you are talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. You have a ministry, like you mentioned, it is about focusing on parental rights and homeschooling. So, why don't
hmm
you go ahead and tell us a little bit about what's on your heart right now for our nation when it comes to those areas?
Absolutely. We have been blessed. Our ministry has been blessed. It is a nationwide ministry. We have had some amazing opportunities and we've grown by leaps and bounds. We are just a tiny little grassroots organization comprised of like minded families who are passionate about protecting educational, parental, and constitutional rights. When I founded Free Your Children, we set out specifically to encourage and equip parents to disciple and teach their own children. And of
Okay.
course, that morphed into working in the legislative capacity to arm parents with the information they need to better protect their families, because we are seeing, unfortunately, a push nationwide to usurp parental rights and to
Right.
really control private education. And of course, homeschooling falls into that realm. So that has
Yeah.
become one of our primary missions as well with our ministry. We are traveling extensively. I will be in the Germantown area on Monday night presenting for Citizens for Liberty at the Great Hall. And so, if anyone is in that area, we would love to meet you and have you come out and join us. And the event is free.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned all those things because this place where we're at in society, we come after 2020 and we start looking at education. And for the first time, I don't know if you would agree with this, but after 2020, even though it was terrible that we went through the lockdown, I would
Right.
say that it actually worked in a benefit. Before people were so anti homeschool, they saw homeschooling as something as negative and people were afraid of it. But right now, I'm in Alabama, and there are record numbers right now leaving the school district. I'm watching my feed and I'm constantly getting updates that people or the schools are reporting that they're having record low attendance or
Mhm.
people signing up for school. And so what is your feedback on that post 2020 outcome?
Well, we saw the same thing at the time during COVID. I had actually founded a local homeschool support group in Middle
Mhm.
Tennessee, and during COVID, we grew by over 240%.
Wow.
So we definitely saw, schools closed down, and so many of
Mhm.
those parents, when they realized they were going to have to be doing essentially public school at home, they wisened up really quickly and said to themselves, "Well, if we're going to have to be doing this anyway, we would rather do it the way that we want to and have the freedom that comes along with homeschooling." So many of those families transitioned into homeschooling. Several of them went back, but many stayed in the homeschooling realm. And of course, as a homeschooling advocate, it always excites me to see
Yeah.
people embrace the educational option that I feel like is the best educational option for children. However, we also know that the more families that leave the traditional educational pipeline, then it's
Yeah.
going to put homeschooling under a microscope. And of course, that is what's happening. And
Right.
we're seeing this. And so there is a massive push, nationwide to regulate homeschooling. And of course, that charge,
Yeah.
as many of us know, is being led by UNESCO. And that is very concerning because they actually have the playbook right there out in the public, for
Mhm.
families and individuals to be able to read. They're telling you, what their plans are for the future of private education and homeschooling specifically. And I think that a large majority of the population isn't really aware of why that's concerning and what it really means.
And before we go on, why don't you go ahead and tell the audience what UNESCO stands for?
Yes, UNESCO stands for, and I actually have this pulled up so I don't get tongue tied. The
It's a
United
long one.
It is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. So we refer to it as UNESCO. There are tons of acronyms in education, and there seem to be more and more every day. So when we refer to UNESCO, that
Yeah.
is the organization that we're referring to. I write monthly for the Murfreesboro Pulse, or the Borough Pulse, as it's known online. And so one of my most recent article, the one that is current right now, I actually go into detail about UNESCO and what their
Okay.
plans are for education, and how they're related to the WEF, and what the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and what this push of the globalization of education hopes to accomplish. And then, of course, most recently, it was so, I don't believe that anything happens by accident. I believe that this was a divine intervention of sorts. But
Mm-hmm.
I had penned this article and sent it in to my publisher at the Borough Pulse. And not long after that article published, UNESCO released a publication, Homeschooling Through a Human Rights Lens. And so this
Mm-hmm.
particular publication focused on what they felt like needed to happen within the homeschooling community. And of course, it is more regulation, more oversight. UNESCO wants complete and total control over all private education in order to create a global citizenry. And they went into great detail. I believe it was 45 pages of information about how they were going to accomplish, or wanted to accomplish, these goals. They have also, even prior to that, come out with a paper explaining how they felt like private tutoring needed to be
Mm-hmm.
regulated, because it was an injustice for children who may not be able to utilize that educational option. So,
Mm-hmm.
and again, they were using the talking points that it's not fair, it's social, it's not, it's an injustice to those who may not be in a position where they could afford tutoring. So again, they're coming at
Under
this.
the guise of,
Yes,
light, right?
right,
Angel,
right.
it's that darkness coming as an angel of light.
Yes, yes. So they have had, they have had, they created a white paper also as well. And I go into this extensively in my seminars, but they made it very clear that they wanted to regulate non-state actors. They wanted to regulate private schools, and they wanted to regulate homeschooling, because in order to create this one world, educational system and this global citizenry,
Key word one, or key phrase, one world, right? Mm-hmm.
absolutely, then that is going to require everyone to be learning the same things in the same way. And so that is what the agenda looks like for UNESCO. And we're seeing our states begin to align with this. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, the avenue that they're using to do this is through the school choice initiatives that are
Yeah.
passing in each state. And the reason why they're able to do this is because I say this sort of became my catchphrase, if you want to call it that, with the government funds it runs. And so anytime the government is funding private education, no matter if it's a private school or if it is homeschooling, there is going to be strings attached to those monies. And those strings are what is going to entangle the homeschooling and the private school community up into this web that UNESCO has set in order to be able to, push their agenda forward. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually had penned another article for the Borough Pulse called School Choice, Their Version of Freedom. And I took snapshots of the states that have passed legislation to
Okay.
implement school choice in their respective states. And you see a common theme. You see wellness checks, where they want, families to have to bring their children in for wellness checks. You see background checks. You see all these, regulations that are coming down the pike. And for, many,
Scary.
it is very scary. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that parents, they've done a great job with their marketing. They've sold
Mm-hmm.
this. Parents are so desperate. And Charlotte Iselbeat warned about this in the 80s. She said parents will be so desperate within the traditional public education system for something, because that system is not producing the results that parents want, that they will quickly accept anything that's better than what they have. And so
Mm-hmm.
the propaganda attached to school choice is, this is the answer. We're coming in, we're going to give parents more options. We're going to put them in the driver's seat. We're going to put them in control. But what's happening is the government is now in control of private education in the states where these pieces of legislation have passed. And so, we have made it one of our missions to educate and warn parents about why this is a slippery slope, why you should never accept the money, and what the overall agenda is in terms of what we just said a minute ago, which is this global citizenry.
So when you're saying this is important, this is an important discussion, because right now, as a homeschooling family, I have 8 kids from the ages of 7 to 26, as you know, and my kids have done really well in homeschool. And it's not because we've had all this money invested in homeschooling. We just gave them a lot of free material. So I need parents to know out there that you don't have to succumb to the pressure of, oh, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough know-how. For a different episode, if you knew that Emmasara could do homeschool successfully, the whole United States would feel so confident about homeschooling, because it's not about having enough money. It's not about having a degree in teaching or English or math or whatever. My kids know way more than I do. So I need to just put that out for everybody who's watching at home, that this is important. And if you feel desperate, it is because that has been ingrained into you to feel desperate. It's made the whole system has been rigged. It has been set up for you as a parent to feel like you need to put your trust in a governmental system or somebody. They made themselves. It's by design. They want you to feel like they're above you. They want you to feel like you're incapable. They want you to feel like, oh, this is going to be a lot of money. Let us come to the rescue. Let us supply, like you said, the false solutions. They're always entangled in a web of lies. It's under the shroud of inclusivity. It's under this whole, we're going to make it fair for everybody, but fair is not really fair when it comes to us parents who want our kids to be protected, who want them to be taught morality and good character rather than godlessness. And, they say they're not religious-based or faith-based, but it's kind of interesting that they embrace religions like Islam in the greater sense. And so it's a two-faced, hypocritical solution that they're giving us. But one thing I do want to ask you is, so we know that with the United Nations and with it, as far as I was under, like I said, I haven't, when it comes to the terms of the UNESCO and the education, I honestly haven't looked deeply into this. I've done some overlay on it. I'm really focused on some other things right now. So I do want to ask you some questions, because I am looking right now for funds for people like myself who are homeschooling, who want to utilize as many resources as we can. And also, I do want to make sure that I can find funds for families who say, Emmasara, I would like to do some things for my children that do cost money. Like, how am I going to get the money for that? So I'm in the realm right now of looking like, how can we get these homeschooling families to feel confident, secure, and financed? So when you're talking about not taking funds, are you talking about, is there specific UNESCO funds, or are you talking about the government is already intertwined with UNESCO? And if we do anything at the base level, that UNESCO is already involved? That is an important question.
Any funds that are coming through the government in the form of vouchers, scholarships, tax credits are going to be entangled with, federal strings and government strings. So I would encourage parents, first off, what you mentioned was exactly correct. Most homeschooling, or at least a large population of the homeschooling community, many of them are actually below the average income line, which would be considered, middle class. So as a whole, the homeschooling community at large is not a wealthy community, because, most oftentimes when you homeschool, you sacrifice one of those incomes. So there's a large population within the homeschooling community that only has one breadwinner. Now, I say that, but I also want to say that there are thousands and thousands of families who work and homeschool effectively, and their children are thriving and have done well. And I have interviewed many of those and dedicated a series to that on my own radio show when we were on the radio show platform. So it can be done. You can work full time. You have to think outside the box. I have resources for families who are working and who cannot quit their job to homeschool, but would like to, be able to explore that option and even enter into that world and make that happen. So there are resources available. And then there are a plethora of free resources for families that want to homeschool. You do not have to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars on curriculums. Now, if there are opportunities, extra classes or enrichment opportunities that you want your children to participate in, what I encourage parents to do is start your own. Find out the parents in your homeschooling community who are gifted in certain areas, and oftentimes those parents will be willing to organize, teach classes or music lessons or voice lessons, or teach them, things that you may not feel like you're qualified to teach. So utilize your resources within
I
your
agree.
own local homeschooling communities. Also, reach out to your church. We're a ministry, so we're faith-based. So if you are a homeschooler that is homeschooling from, a faith-based perspective, I would say go and talk to your religious leaders and ask them to come alongside you and help provide resources for your families within your congregation and your community, to help them, fill any gaps that they may feel like that they have.
And even while you're saying that, I mean, even maybe like while you're here right now, maybe you can even just say a word to the churches right now. If you were a pastor, a pastor's wife, somebody is watching from that side of the church, because I think a lot of people are not thinking about going to the church to ask them for help for homeschooling, but maybe you can address that.
Yeah, I will say that I have asked churches and pastors many questions throughout the years. I've actually penned articles. One in particular was titled, "Where is the church?" So what the church needs to understand is this is your responsibility. It should be your responsibility to encourage and equip parents to disciple and teach their own children. We know statistically that so many of our youth are falling away from the faith. And if this continues to happen, we are not going to have anyone left to go forth and make disciples. So this is a mission for the church. We are in a battle for the souls of our nation's children. We say that repeatedly on Free Your Children, and it is the church's responsibility to stand in the gap and walk alongside those parents and help them, protect their families, protect the children, grow the church, go out and make disciples, and, allow these families an opportunity to teach their children, from a faith-based perspective, so that when they're launched, when those arrows are launched, they have a firm foundation, so that they have a firm footing to stand on when they have to go out and defend their beliefs.
I agree with that. I definitely think it's important. And right now there is such a push. I mean, when you think about the education system, all the indoctrination that has been going on for generations, so you have kids for decades who have gone through the system, who have now become parents. And this is where we're really at right now, as a generation of kids who went through the system, who got a little bit more indoctrination, a little bit more propaganda, till after we came back from 2020. I don't know if you remember me mentioning it, but in my prayer time in 2020, I literally heard the voice of God. I knew that it was him. I can't explain it. That still small voice, I just knew it was the Lord saying, Emmasara, tell them. Okay, that means those who have an ear to hear, tell them I said to not send their kids back to public schools, because they've gone from the schools of Babylon to the schools of Sodom. And when I had mentioned that to my oldest son, he actually said, well, Mama, that Babylon was very advanced and academic and, mathematics and things like this. And so I said, okay, son, well, that made sense after he said it, because I'm like, okay, so that was definitely God, because it went from reading, writing, arithmetic to what? The schools of Sodom. And now what do we know? We came back and God kept that prophecy. I believe it was a prophetic word. I know some people are on the fence about prophecy. I know what I heard, and if it was a good thing, right, to protect kids, and I say, we should take heed. And so right now we have all these parents that have been basically brainwashed for all these years, and they are allowing their kids to be taught this junk, right?
Right.
And so we have these people who are now confused about the system. You have parents who are saying, well, wait a minute, their eyes are open, they've been awakened, they see the damage, they're seeing all the teachers. My feed, I'm sure your algorithm is set up for all the atrocities in public school. So I see all the atrocities on my algorithm. And right now, the amount of teachers, you think about the P word, okay? How many students, teachers, adults, coaches, you name it, are addicted to these things, and now they're put in the realm of being with children, but it's not just P anymore, it's like P with children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's escalated right now. And so I'm really passionate about the topic of educating our children from home.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I mean, I always say good, better, best. Don't stop until the good is better and the better best. So I realize there's some people who have chosen private school, but I want to tell you this. This is, without giving too much information, but I have a friend who chose Christian school. But even within Christian school, within a very short amount of time, another child who was a foster child tried to, molest her son in Christian school. Why? Because it is rampant right now. And this is, not an uncomfortable conversation for some people to hear, but I think that we are all privy. I think our eyes are open. I don't think it's too shocking like it used to be. And so when I first started homeschooling my kids, I literally knew nothing about homeschooling. I didn't know what phonics was. My mom was only 14 when she had me. I was born in the ghetto of Los Angeles. But one thing was for sure, two things was for certain. I wasn't going to send my kid to school, because if I didn't send them to school, they couldn't get molested in school. And that was I said, reading, writing, arithmetic, and they didn't get hurt. I've done my job. Okay. But you see, my son she found me because one of my sons was trending on the news. So that is the encouragement for you guys, is that you don't have to follow suit anymore. You don't have to believe everything the government has for you as being, before it used to be the gold standard. Oh, they've gone to school and they've gone to college. And now we see they're going to, elementary, they're going to the public schools, they're graduating, they can't read, they can't write, they're going to college, they're going to the art, they're the associates of arts, and they're learning all these ideologies in college. People are paying tens of thousands of dollars to learn an ideology that is going to do nothing for them in the realm of occupation. So, right. I mean, with your organization, what are some easy ways they could connect with you and find those resources?
Absolutely. Well, they can always visit our website. That's freeyourchildren.com. We're a treasure trove of information there. We keep our events updated. So if you are in the area, we would love to have you come out to one of our events and take a listen to the seminars that we're presenting across the nation. If anyone has a desire to host a seminar in their area where we come out and explain where this came from, why are we experiencing what we're experiencing in education? We cover where this came from, where we are today, and where we're headed in the future. And so, and a treasure trove of other topics as well. So if anyone wants information about that, we would be happy to send them that information. We also have a toolkit over on the website that can tap into all the articles that I have written to date about these topics. They can also go back and listen to my radio shows and podcasts. I have had such a blessing to interview some amazing people such as yourself and your son and many others all across the United States that are encouraging and equipping parents with the truth that they need to better protect their families. So they can also find me on all of the social media channels. We have a free newsletter. You can sign up for that over on the website. We're on Substack, X, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the same places. We're there as For Your Children. So we hope that people will check us out and find out, more information about what our ministry is doing.
That's great. And I personally use Khan Academy, and it is actually secular. It's not even a faith-based curriculum. And you might find that strange that I would actually use a secular curriculum, but we have taught our kids how to navigate around specific topics. And so our kids don't look at anything that might have Greek mythology in it or anything that's going to have naked statues, because even in Christian history, when they start going to the Greco-Roman period, my kids are like, Mama, the statues, I have 6 sons, and we taught them to be consecrated with their eyes and have covenant eyes. Mm-hmm. So there are things even within Christian. This is what I'm saying is we can't sit here and say, oh, this is a Christian school, my kid's going to be safe now. This is a Christian curriculum. Everything must be hunky-dory now. I have actually seen some book series out there that looked pretty good. But then I started to research, and I was like, there is an unclean spirit that is being masked as Christian fiction here.
Mhm.
And so I really want to encourage families to, this is not to be putting you in a place of being afraid, because this is not it. We rebuke the spirit of fear. This is a place to have you be awake, to be alert, and to be on watch, because the enemy, he is going about and he wants to tear and he wants to devour. He's after the children. And so I use Khan because it's easy, it's free, it is, I've not a good, I'm not even going to say it. I was going to say an example, but not a good example. Everybody be like, why are you using an example? Because I would say this, that multimillionaires and billionaires use Khan Academy to educate their children. So I'm just telling you that it actually has high level education for free. Just maneuver throughout it. But the number one thing is, I would say for my children, we teach them living science. They love science and history. We went to Florida and we went to a World War II ship. Okay, never been anywhere near this ship before. We walk into it, and I'm not kidding you, my then 13-year-old, he shocked me. It was like I had a tour guide with me. He went through the whole museum and gave me and this over here, and this article, and this came from this era, and this is what happened in this battle. And I was like, you make me look really good, son, as a homeschooling mom. Okay, but the truth is that if you put enough living resources in front of them, and you keep the Xbox away from them, my kids are not. I don't understand. This is a little rant right now, if you don't mind. And then we're going to wrap it up. Little rant. Why do parents think that kids have to have phones? And why do they think they have to play video games? It's like, oh, you're a kid, you must be a video game player. You're a kid, you must have a phone. No, my kids don't have a phone. And if they play any kind of game, it is an engineer. They're learning how to build planes. They're learning how to navigate a plane. They are learning how to build things on the backside. And so everything my kids do has to have if it's free time and they're in the the TV room, the media room, they're watching politics, they're watching debate things, they're watching Israel. And show me your friends, I'll show you your future, right? I didn't allow my kids to have friends, so they're with mama all day. And guess what? You've seen, I have 8 kids, and my kids are highly intellectual and political. I'm saying and this is not to toot my own horn. I was 14, born from a 14-year-old. So if I could do it, anybody can. I will say this, is that it's time to elevate. It's time to ascend what we've been taught in society as normal, as, this is what they considered critical thinking once upon a time. But no, teaching your kids to be aware, to question why they believe what they believe, and then to know why they believe what they believe. Because even in the Christian church, there has been religion, passed down from generation to generation. Nobody even knows why they believe because the church said so. Right. I say question everything. It's fun.
Absolutely. And do your own research. I think many people have forgotten how to do that. Don't take someone's word for something. Go out, look it up yourself, and verify that information and do your own research.
Exactly. I say the same thing. Well, we're wrapping it up here with Tiffany. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, we'll drop your link right up there again. It's foryourchildren.com if you'd like to get a hold of her. I'm Emmasara with Ignite Voices. If you enjoy our shows, you can support the show at ignitevoices.com. We have over 130 guests that we are still just constantly pumping out on top of our new guests like Tiffany. Our mission is clear. We want to get out the information to help you make an educated vote, vote, but to make educated choices in the realm of politics, in the realm of education, health, whatever is impacting your family. We're interested. Faith, family, and morality. That's us with Ignite Voices. Remember, y'all, go out and blaze change. I'm Emma.